Welcome back to Man Down Sports. As you can see from the thumbnail, we got a lot of stuff to get into. It's a full episode, man. I haven't came and dropped any content in like 2 weeks, man. So I appreciate everybody for sticking with me on that. I try not to let that happen again. Things got a little bit busy though, so. But yeah, full episode, man. A lot of NBA content, a lot of things I wanted to kind of discuss. And first and foremost, I want to get into this Steve Nash MVP debate thing because it was something I was watching it and it came up again, and it kind of reminded me of what Kendrick Perkins was saying when he got into his little spat with JJ Redick on First Take, and he mentioned Steve Nash, Dirk, Larry Bird. He mentioned those MVPs, but mainly the Steve Nash one, where he felt like the criteria for MVP around the NBA seems to change every year, almost like the sports media and some of the people who have votes for NBA awards, they kind of change the narrative every year to fit a particular person that they feel like deserves the MVP. And he said that the goalposts move. I'm gonna get into all that, man. I'm gonna explain to you what I think about that 05-06 MVP for Nash and the 04-05 MVP for Nash, because he got back-to-back MVPs. And I'm gonna go over if I really think Kobe Bryant deserved the MVP or not. And I'm gonna let you know why I think Chauncey Billups actually was more deserving than Steve Nash and Kobe Bryant. So stick around. You want to stick around to the end of this video so you can hear my thoughts on that. But before I even get started, make sure you hit the thumbs up on your way in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And if you're watching this from Facebook, head over to YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe there, and continue to watch from there. So without further ado, I'm going to play for you what Kendrick Perkins said, just a small clip of some of the things he pointed out. And then I'm going to get into my case on why Chauncey Billups probably should have been the MVP that season.
When it comes down to moving the goalposts for certain individuals to win it, again, is it Uchiwale or is it one Mike that wasn't top 10 in scoring? We moved the goalposts so much. So that's my whole thing. Is like, why we move the goalposts for certain people and then for others, we don't. Is he not getting the love that Steve Nash was getting when he was in Phoenix for as the MVP candidate or winning or being the MVP frontrunner?
So that was his comment about we don't even know what the criteria is. He said, is it Uchiwale? Is it one Mike? Like, what is it going to be? Are we going to be going off offensive win shares? Are we going to be going advanced analytics? Are we going with storyline, narrative? Are we going with the big number? Are we going with best player on the best team? Like, what is the criteria? Because it seems to move every single year. Right. And what he's saying is very suspicious on when it moves. Like when the goalpost moves, it's very convenient to support someone that more than likely probably wouldn't win it if the grounds was leveled. So I'm gonna just use this Steve Nash back-to-back MVP as an example to kind of support what Kendrick Perkins was saying about the goalpost moving. And if you remember Steve Nash's first MVP, right? I'll pull it up. Yeah, this is the voting. This is how it stacked out toward the end. You see Nash and Shaquille O'Neal. They're 1 and 2. They're the only ones that really was getting first place votes. Nash got 65. Shaq got 58 first place votes. So it was a close race for Shaq. That was Shaq's first year in Miami, if I believe. So according to the voters, Steve Nash and Shaquille O'Neal were the only 2 real candidates in the entire NBA that year. But we know Dirk Nowitzki, he finished in 3rd place. He had a serious case. So did Tim Duncan, and then, it probably stops in there for 04. But I did want to let you know about 2 things. I circled Amara Stoudemire's name, and I circled Sean Marion's name, who are teammates of Steve Nash on the Phoenix Suns. I think that's real significant that you have 2 teammates who actually got MVP consideration seriously from at least 1 or 2 voters. I think that was interesting. If you look at Amara Stoudemire averaging 26 points a game, 9 rebounds, that's significant. right? His numbers actually look better than Steve Nash. Steve Nash averaged 15 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. If you round up, it's 16 points and 12 assists, right? So 16 and 12 for your point guard. But your primary scorer was Amari Stoudemire, and he was averaging 26 points and 9 rebounds. I think that's very significant. And then you have Sean Marion, who was getting you 20 points a game. So you had 20 point per game scorers on your team, and they both outscored you, right? So if it wasn't the numbers for Steve Nash that year, then what was it for Steve Nash? What made him go over the top and win the MVP? And if you look to the right, I got the Suns circled in red, and you see that they won 62 games, which was the league best that year, right? So if you're a point guard, you're averaging 16 and 12. You got two players on your team who also got MVP votes, who both averaged more than you, right? Who put up more numbers than you. But you was the head of the snake, and we obviously know Steve Nash was the head of the snake. He was the engine that made that Phoenix Suns offense go and Mike D'Antoni's system. So we know Steve Nash was probably, he definitely was the engine. And you can make the argument he was the best player there as well. So we're not gonna pretend like he wasn't, but we do have to point out that he wasn't the teammate that had the better numbers. Amari Stoudemire was, and then Sean Marion was, and then Steve Nash was, right? But the record was 62 and 20. Great record that was for number one in the league, right? 62 wins was number one in the league. So what helped Steve Nash in 04-05 for his first MVP was that he was the engine for the number one offense in the league, who also had the number one record in the league. So despite him not having the numbers, what helped him was the storyline of you are the engine, you are the head of the snake, you make this thing go, and you have the best record and the best offense. So that's what helped Steve Nash win in 04. Shaquille O'Neal, who won 3 less games, who had let's look at Shaquille O'Neal's number. He was not huge numbers, 23 points a game, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks. He was Shaq, but he was also in Miami, coming out of the Lakers and playing with D Wade. D Wade, if you see him at number 8, he had MVP consideration as well, but he didn't have 2 guys that got MVP consideration like Steve Nash did. So Shaquille O'Neal, I wouldn't say that he had a great case. I would probably agree. If you was watching the league back then and seeing what Phoenix was doing, it was kind of like the first year that Stephen Curry and the Warriors broke out into this great offense. It was kind of that. So imagine what the Warriors did and how they caught everybody by surprise with how they ran their offense. And look at Stephen Curry, but imagine him not scoring 30 points a game like Steph Curry. Imagine him scoring half of that. That's what that was for Steve Nash watching it. You seen Phoenix doing their thing, and that was an amazing thing. Barbosa coming off the bench, he kept the thing going. It was just a good change of pace for him coming off the bench. They had Joe Johnson, who was a great 3-point shooter and a great scorer. What he did, he went to Atlanta and turned into a perennial all-star as a number one leading the team. So you got this secret weapon, this number one, that's also in your lineup with 2 guys, Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion, who was getting MVP consideration, who was averaging over 20 and 10, right? You have that. Then you have Barbosa off the bench. Then you got Joe Johnson, who's a number one. Then you got Quentin Richardson off the bench, who was leading the league in 3-point percentage and probably 3-point attempts and makes that year as well. Won a 3-point contest that year as well. You got all this on your roster, right? And the storyline helped you out because what we seen with our eyes was a great offense, and what we connected that to was the story of the reason why this offense is even existing and going that way is because of Steve Nash. So we can ignore the numbers. We can just look at the results of They won 62 games. Their offense is number one, and Steve Nash is the reason why. And when you look at Amari Stoudemire and Sean Marion, these great players, we're explaining away by saying they wouldn't be this good if it wasn't for Steve Nash. Steve Nash is making them that good, right? So that was the story with Steve Nash. And whether it's true or not, that's a debate for another day. But I will say, I believe, based on what we're seeing right here on all the other candidates, I believe Steve Nash deserved that 04 MVP for sure. But if we say Steve Nash deserved it, and we're saying it's not based on the amazing numbers, it's based on the storyline and the record, then we have to look at 05. It's the exact same scenario. As a matter of fact, look at 05, look at 04, 05, look at on the right side, the Suns, 62 wins, and then look on the left side, you see the Pistons. We kind of ignored that because Shaq was number 2 in MVP voting. Nobody on the Pistons was even getting a vote, right? But they won 54 games. So that's what is that? 4th best in the league, right? So behind the Suns, and then the Heat and Spurs was tied at number 2. So they're number 2 and 3, and then you got the Pistons at number 4, right? So just look at that scenario: 54 wins for the Pistons, 62 wins for the Suns. The very next year, it's the exact opposite. It was flip-flop. The Suns, you see them on the left with 54 wins, right? You see the Pistons with the best record in the league with 64 wins. So they won 2 more games than what the Suns won the year before. So what was the fallout for the MVP that year? And did the goalpost move like Kendrick Perkins said the goalpost usually moves? Because what the goalpost was at last season was number 1 record in the league, number 1 offense, and the head of the snake was Steve Nash, right? So when you look at number 1 record in the league for the Pistons, they didn't have a number 1 offense. That was middle of the pack with their offense, but the defense was number 1, right? And the engine that helped the Pistons offense go, and a guy who also made second team all defensive player that year, right, was Chauncey Billups, right? So Chauncey Billups, if you look at his numbers, he finished 5th in the MVP race. Nash got the MVP, of course. LeBron James, Dirk, Kobe was 2, 3, and 4 right behind him. And a lot of people like to make an argument for Kobe Bryant for this MVP. But if you've seen my video, which I'm going to leave the link in the description for my criteria for MVP, and if you can look right there in the middle where it says the most valuable player, and in parentheses, the Michael Jordan trophy. Since the trophy is named after Michael Jordan, I did a deep dive into what it took for Michael Jordan to win his MVPs, and I came up with a criteria that I think is really good. So if you want to see that video, click on it. I'll leave the link in the description, and then I'll leave also you have an opportunity to click on it after this video. But in a nutshell, what I said was excellence on offensive end, excellence on the defensive end. That makes you a complete player. That makes you valuable on both ends of the floor for your team. And then team success. So you do have to have excellence offensively. But that's the name of the game. You got to score to win, right? But it's everyone's job on the court to be able to defend and stop their opponent from scoring, right? So you have to do both. You can't be one-dimensional. Now, if every candidate was one-dimensional, then cool. I don't mind a one-dimensional player winning MVP. But when there's an option for a player that's playing both ends of the floor at an excellent level, it's very hard for me to choose a player that's playing one end excellent over the other player that's playing both ends excellent if they both have the team success, right? So in this case, Steve Nash, 100% is excellent on offense and 100% is horrible on defense. He gives you nothing on defense. There's no value, right? So how do you take that player and then you look at Chauncey Billups, who is at the top of the screen, 04 and 05 and 05, 06, made second team all defense, right? Look at the names he's amongst. Canby, shot blocker. Tim Duncan, shot blocker. Garnett, shot blocker and great defender on the ball. Tayshaun Prince, great defender. All right. You got Kobe and J. Kidd, Ben Wallace, Andre Karlenko, Bruce Bowen. Known defenders, Metta World Peace. Known defenders. Chauncey Billups is in that conversation. That's 10 names. That's 11 names because they got Kobe and Kidd tied for first team. But that's 11 names. Chauncey Billups, at worst, that season was the 11th best defender out of hundreds of players. Right? He was the 11th best defender over D Wade, over LeBron. None of these guys made all-team defense that year. Chauncey Billups did. He was playing phenomenal defense. On top of the fact, he had game winner after game winner. He earned the name Mr. Big Shot. He was just destroying and carrying the Pistons team as a point guard and as a leader, as the head of the snake. Right? He was doing that. And if you look at his averages, he was averaging 18 points and 9 assists. Remember, Steve Nash, when he won his MVP, was averaging 16 points, 12 assists. Chauncey Billups is averaging more points, 18, 9 assists. He's averaging 3 less assists, but he's averaging really 19. So he's averaging 3 more points, but 3 less assists. So, it was he really did the same blueprint that Nash did. I'm leading my team. I'm a floor drainer. I'm leading the offense. I'm putting up 19 points a game and 9 assists. But the difference between him and Nash is that he was locking up the best offensive player if he was a wing player. So when it came to who was going to guard Kobe, it was either going to be between Tayshaun Prince or Chauncey Billups. And when it came to who was going to guard Kidd, it was going to be Chauncey Billups. When it came to who was going to guard Wade, it was going to be Chauncey Billups or Tayshaun Prince. He was a great defender. Right? I can't stress that enough, right? So imagine Nash was able to win MVP while having 2 MVP candidates on his team, while playing 0 defense. But what he had going for him is he was 16 and 12 for points and assists, number 1 record in the league, number 1 offense. Well, the Pistons were 64 wins, number 1 team and number 1 record in the league. He was 19 and 9 for points and assists. He was second team all defense, and his team was number 1 in defense in the league. So what he did well led to a number 1 ranking on defense. What Nash did well led to a number 1 ranking on offense. But the only thing is, Billups was doing the same exact same thing on offense that Nash was doing, but added the defensive end to it, right? So why wasn't he higher up on the list as a candidate? And just to mention the Kobe Bryant thing, the Lakers was a 7th seed that year, right? When you look at my criteria for MVP, you're going to have a slim to no chance of winning MVP out of the 7th seed. I just don't believe in it. Right. It just doesn't even make sense to be in the 7th, sitting at the 7th seed and be getting MVP votes. I don't mind you getting some votes, but you're not going to get a lot of first place votes, in my opinion. Right. There's better candidates if you're sitting in the 7th seed. But Kobe Bryant had the monster numbers: 35 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. So he had monster numbers. But sitting at the 7th seed, the team success was not there. Did he make first team defense? Yes. First team offense? Yes. So he was first team offense, first team defense. He had everything going for him: the excellence and the success on offense and defensive end. The team success was there, but it was players more successful for their team. So Kobe Bryant wouldn't have been a candidate for me 05-06. So I don't believe in the notion that Kobe Bryant should have won the MVP over Steve Nash, but I do believe that Chauncey Billups should have won the MVP over Steve Nash, because the precedence that was set the year before was number 1 team in the league, best player on that team, excellent numbers, but he did it on both ends, or well, not in Nash's case, he did it on one end, but Billups did it on 2 ends, so he took it up a notch. He won more games than Nash, and he did it on both ends, and he scored more points. he took it up a notch than what Steve Nash did. So how did Steve Nash end up winning it again? Well, I'm gonna tell you. Let's go back. Let's go back to that record, right? So here he is at 54 wins, and the Pistons 10 whole games above them with 64 wins, and they're number one in the league. How come that narrative didn't work for Chauncey Billups? Well, if you old, well, I ain't gonna say I'm old. If you've been watching basketball long enough, and you remember some of the talking heads and how because if you listen to enough of these guys talk, they tell you exactly what their thoughts are, and they kind of shape the narratives and stuff like that. So you get to hear exactly probably what they're talking about behind closed doors and how they're swaying and deciding some of these things. And what I remember from all the talking heads then was when Chauncey Billups' name was coming up in the MVP discussion, because obviously, man, his name have to be there. They're the best record in the league, and he was performing so well, and he was hitting game winners night after night and clutch shots and big shots. They explained it away by saying, well, we can't really consider Chauncey Billups for the MVP because he has too much help. So they said that Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, and Ben Wallace was too much help. Billups has too much help. Now remember, the year before, Nash had a guy averaging 26 and a guy averaging 20, and they both was in the MVP discussion. Both was all-stars. And they didn't say that Nash had too much help. They said that the only reason why they're playing that good is because of Nash. You see how that was different? You see that little twist? Oh, no. That's not too much help. They're playing like that because of Nash. Because Nash is getting 12 assists, he's spoon-feeding them all their points. That's not too much help. That's him helping them. But on Billups' side, he had too much help. We can't give it to him. He got too much help. But he had not one player that was in the MVP discussion other than him. Not Ben Wallace, not Rasheed, not Rip, not Tayshaun. None of them was in the MVP discussion. This man Nash had two guys in the MVP discussion. So that was the first thing that they kind of explained away. The second thing was this particular year, Amari Stoudemire had only played 3 games. He got hurt. So but Boris Diaw stepped up, and he doubled his production and points and rebounds, in minutes and everything. Like Boris Diaw was balling out, and you can try to Google some of this, but if you wasn't watching the league at that time, you have no idea on how Boris Diaw stepped his game up in Amari Stoudemire's absence. Like, you have no idea. The Googling the numbers is not going to help you. Right? You had to watch it. You had to watch what he was doing. He stepped up. They had Tim Thomas stepping up off the bench. And Sean Marion stepped his game up and averaged more across the board. Nash stepped his game up a little bit. He averaged a little bit more. So everybody kind of stepped up. But the fact that he lost his number 2 in Stoudemire is the reason why everyone said, well, we can excuse the fact that the Pistons have the best record in the league, and we cannot really consider Billups over Nash because Nash lost his number 2. And that sounds very familiar to when Jokic won his second MVP. Michael Porter Jr. Was playing. Was he playing? Michael Porter Jr. had back surgery, and Jamal Murray had the ACL. That he tore his ACL in the playoffs. So he lost his number 2. Jamal Murray was gone, and he didn't have the best record in the league, right? What he did was average close to a triple-double, but he was sitting at like the number 5 or number 6 seed. Now, remember, I told you, I would not consider Kobe Bryant for MVP sitting at the number 7 seed. I won't. That's just my rule. I won't do it. But 2 guys that I think the NBA did an injustice is by giving Westbrook an MVP because he averaged a triple-double, and he was sitting at the number 6 or number 7 seed for OKC Thunder. They made the excuse. They explained it away, made the excuse. Oh, he lost Kevin Durant. He don't have his guy. So it's okay for him to be at the number 6 seed, and it's okay for me to overlook a player who might have the best record in the league, who's playing both ends of the floor and playing excellent basketball. Let's overlook him because he's got average a triple-double, even though he's sitting at the number 7 seed. So they did it for Westbrook and they did it for Jokic. So they start creating these narrative and these storylines to help you overlook a guy who's more deserving of the award and the consideration, right? So same thing with Jokic. He lost Porter Jr., he lost Murray. So it's an excuse, but that's okay for him to be sitting at the 6th or the 7th seed or the 5th seed, wherever he was at that year. Let's give him his second MVP in a row. And that's what Kendrick Perkins was talking about at the beginning. This goalpost move is a sliding scale. It's a slippery slope. We can't catch it. You know, the media can change the narrative however and whenever they want to favor a guy that they just feel like, you know, I think we should give it to him. And the motivation behind it, I think people got Kendrick Perkins a little bit misconstrued and mixed up because they made it strictly a race thing, and I don't think that's what the issue is. Now, is there subconscious and unconscious, you know, and is there bias involved? Sure, you know, sure. Like, you know, if it was a one female playing in the NBA, and you had female voters, whether they know it or not, they probably would favor her if she was ever in the discussion for MVP. Right, you know, that happened. You know, people were like underdog stories. People like people that remind them of themselves, or you know, or people that represent them. You know, that's normal. We get that, and that can happen unconsciously or consciously, right? You know, and there's no harm, no foul. It's just human error. That's part of human error, right? But if you're really trying to have a fair and respectable process, then you have to acknowledge that human error exists, and then you have to put in safeguards to make sure that human element don't play out too much in the decision making process of how you award players and people. And I think in these cases, when you start changing the narrative every year based on what it looks like, hey, the criteria is changing this year. This player had more win shares than this player, so let's give it to him. He had more win shares. Or, oh, guess what? This player lost his number 2, so you know he barely made the playoffs. He's sitting at 500, 41 and 41. But yeah, well, let's give him an MVP because he averaged a triple double. Like, you know, all that stuff is nonsense to me. So, but yeah, so in the case of Steve Nash, no, he did not deserve MVP that second year. Chauncey Billups did. Chauncey Billups 100% deserved the MVP. They stole an MVP from Chauncey Billups. They gave it to Nash. They did not steal an MVP from Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant did not deserve to be MVP sitting at a number 7 seed. It's just not the case, right? So that's my whole thought on the situation, man. Chauncey Billups had a phenomenal year that year, 19-9, best record in the league, all team defense, best defense in the league, and he was the head of the snake for that team. I think he got robbed, man. So for what it's worth, Chauncey Billups, man, you the real MVP for 2005, 2006. You heard it here on Man Down podcast. If you disagree, let me know. Let me know why I got it wrong in the comment section. Let me know if this doesn't make sense at all. If you think Kobe deserved it, if you think Nash deserved it, or if you think somebody else like LeBron James deserved it that year, just let me know in the comments, and I'll catch y'all on the next episode. Peace. Another thing I wanted to get into was this Luka Doncic, right? Kenyon Martin was on the Gills Arena podcast, and he said something that I actually agree with on that podcast, and a lot of people don't want to say this or don't want to admit it because it's unpopular. It goes against mainstream media and what their thoughts is, and it goes against a player that the NBA is trying to market, and they're trying to market this player for a couple of different reasons. And I get into that, but I I'm going to go ahead and play what Kenya Martin said on Gears to Win the podcast. Before I hit that button and play it, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that thumbs up button on your way in. And if you're watching from Facebook, head over to YouTube and hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Without further ado, here's Kenya Martin.
Is Luka the best player on this team?
Is he?
Production-wise. I didn't ask you that. Enough said. But in the MVP, he's the fourth best player in the NBA compared to the bullshit list from the other day. He in the MVP conversation, and in my opinion, I don't think he's the best player on this basketball team. But that's for another. Never mind. Move on. Just sip my tea. Oh, this is.
Okay, we got. So who's the best player on the Mavs if Luka's not?
Hey, I mean, I know one. I put it like this. You know, when people be talking about one-on-one, I know if you ask Dinwiddie who's the best one-on-one player there, I guarantee it won't be who they think it is. Won't be Luka.
You know what I'm saying? Guarantee you line them up, let them play ones.
Oh, he couldn't be. Dinwiddie said, "Oh, he got mopped every time."
Yeah, every time, dog. And you line him up against Kyrie, it'll be listen. He might don't touch the ball. If you give Kyrie the ball first, Luka won't touch the ball.
11-0?
Hey,
Luka can't guard this goddamn camera stand.
hey, no, but that's when they say where y'all ring Dinwiddie,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
be him. And
That's all I'm saying.
That's
But
That's that value.
is Luka good? Absolutely.
That
Good for his
one
team.
is different.
Yeah, and that's the thing with real basketball people. Like, if your numbers don't equate to something, they just numbers. And I look at you, who you are and what you're doing, and I look at Kyrie like, shit. Yeah, give me 11.
Yep.
Give me number 11.
Right. He don't wear number 11 anymore. I think he wore number 2 in Dallas. So he said a lot in there, right? And I want to get to some of the stuff he said. I want to break it down. But I actually agree with Kenya Martin. I think Kyrie Irving is better than Luka Doncic. I'm gonna explain why, right? The way I judge a player is whole and totally, right? A complete player. The closer you are to complete, the better player you are. Basketball is bigger than the NBA, right? If you hear Luka, Jokic, Giannis talk about basketball overseas in the European leagues, they say it's harder to score over there, right? They say it's easier to score in the NBA. And there's a lot of reasons why it's easier to score in the NBA. It's funny because the NBA used to be the team or the league that was harder to score in. And when they looked at European basketball, they looked at a more free-flowing game, a more up-and-paced game, a less physical game. And David Stern, toward the end of his tenure as commissioner, and then Adam Silver, continued his legacy on, they had the idea to change the NBA game to match more of a European style because it would be more exciting for fans. It'd be more up and down pace. It'd be more points, more shots, and all of the above, which in their mind means more eyes, more views, more ratings, more money, right? I say all that to say this. They purposely changed the game to make it easier to score. And you hear the European players saying it's easier over here, which is kind of embarrassing because we were supposed to be the mecca of basketball, right? And then they coming over here saying it's easy, right? So nonetheless, it's easier to score. The NBA is not the end all be all for basketball. So the way you judge basketball and basketball players shouldn't just be through the lens of the NBA. The NBA is an entertainment business, and there's a lot of things that happen in the NBA that are manipulated for entertainment purposes. So you have to be able to see below the surface to see the pureness and the realness of basketball, right? like I said, without the lens of the NBA. So a lot of people would take the numbers that Luka put up and automatically equate that to whoever don't put up these numbers, he's better than, which is evident in when they do the top list, the top 100 list. ESPN does it, Bleacher Report, Ringer. When the MVP preseason picks come out, Luka is always up top. The last 3 years, I think he was number one in the preseason. He never could finish that high as a finalist, but because of circumstances, right? That's for a debate for another day. But he's always regarded in the highest of highlights. Some people call him the best player in the league. I know his owner Mark Cuban says that. It's a lot of people around the NBA that say he's top 3, and like I said, ESPN just ranked him at number 4, and they ranked Kyrie Irving at like number 34, right? Which is good because the I want to say the Ringer on the Bleacher Report, was it Bleacher Report? It might have been the Ringer, had him at number 66 last year, right? So what they're basing it off of, I don't know, right? Their criteria just is as bad as the MVP criteria, right? So it's a sliding scale. It changes from player to player. It ain't something that you can apply across the board. So like I said, the way I judge a player is in total completeness, how complete as a player you are. And scoring is really a huge part of basketball because you have to score to win. You can't go out there and end the game at 0-0. Someone has to put the ball in the hole. So scoring is a goal. That's golden. You have to have that. The other goal standard is defending, because you can score 2 points, but if you're giving up 2, then at the end of the regulation it's going to be 2-2. Someone has to stop someone enough for your points to matter. So scoring and defending is the top 2 things that a player must have, right? The number 1 and 2 thing you must have, right? That's why superstars that can score are paid the most, because we know that we can use this player and build a team around him, and we can get points, because if he's unstoppable as a scorer, he can score on 95% of the league. That means that you either got a double, and now the guys who can't score as good as him now can get their shots off if they're just shooters or if they're just slashers, right? We can build an offense around him based on his scoring ability, right? So it's everyone's responsibility to be able to make a shot, but your best player has to be able to get a shot, in 99.9% of scenarios, all right? So that's on offense. On defense, it's also everyone's job to be able to stop their man. At least, can you stop your man, right? Can you guard your position? You play center, okay. Can you stop the opposing center if I leave you by yourself with them, right? That's at a minimum, right? Now, the better players can guard multiple positions. The greater players can also be of service in a help role. Like if you get beat by your man, Dwight Howard can come over and clean it up with shot blocking, and that's not even his man. Like I can be over here, you get beat, I can come over here and block that shot, right? So those are steps up on defense. The first step is, can you stop your position? If you play point guard, can you stop opposing point guards 9 times out of 10? Or can you contain them? Can we leave you by yourself? Or do we have to double because you're a liability, right? So that's the first thing. Can you do that? The next level is, can you guard another position that way? If you're a point guard like Marcus Smart, can you stop point guards? Okay, cool. Guess what? We're playing a team tomorrow who point guard is not even a scorer. So we don't even really need you to shut down a point guard. Can you shut down that 2 guard? And in the Marcus Smart case, yes, I can. So you can use them that way, right? Hey, can you shut down the small forward? Marcus Smart, that might be a little bit too much for him, depending on who the small forward is. If it's Kevin Durant, it's going to be tough for him. But I've seen Drew Holiday on Kevin Durant. I've seen Pat Beverly on Kevin Durant, right? So guarding multiple positions is the step up from being able to guard your position, right? Can you guard your position? Yes. Can you guard multiple positions? Yes. Are you a good help defender? Right? Passing lanes, or are you smart? Can you come over and take a charge, or can you come over and block a shot? Those are the levels of defense, right? Can you quarterback my defense? Do you have that type of knowledge like KG? Are you sitting back there calling everything out? Or you talk like that's defense, right? So every player has a responsibility to be at the minimal. Stop your position. Can you do it? Right? So the player who can score and who can defend, and then who can translate that to team success, those players to me are the complete players. And I would never put an incomplete player over a complete player. All right, so why am I saying this? Luka Doncic checks off almost every, well, I would say he checks off every block on offense. Now, in practice, as far as how they actually run their offense, they're not using Luka in a way that I think can maximize the Mavs' potential. And the reason why that is because either he, and I think he checks this block off because I've seen him do it, but I have to see him do it consistently and effectively. Play off the ball, right? So the way I describe defending, the minimal thing is, can you guard your position, and then it's levels after that. On offense, it's, can you score on your man or your position? Can you score on other positions, right? And then obviously for the real good players, that's what we've been doing our whole life with the ball, scoring on people. I can get my shot off on you. I can get into my actions. I can back you down and get into a shot. Luka can do all that, but it's another level above that. Now, can you do that without the ball? And that's when you get into the Jordans and the Kobes and the Kevin Durant's and the Steph Curry's and the Kyrie Irvings, right? These guys don't have the ball, and that unlocks another level for your team, because if I'm the best player and I don't have the ball, then that makes another player more dangerous, right? So if you're Michael Jordan and you have the ball, then what Scottie Pippen can do for your team is lessened, because he's not a catch and shoot 3-point shooter that way. So Michael Jordan with the ball trying to get his shot, and then you come double off Scottie and you make the pass to Scottie. That's not his strength. That's not his strong part, right? Passing it to BJ Armstrong or John Paxson or Steve Kerr might work, but passing it to Pippen, that's not his strong point for him to be a catch and shoot player. But if you give Pippen the ball and put Jordan off the ball, now we're cooking with high grease. Now Scottie Pippen can maximize what he does well with the ball. And my best player, who the player is going to end with, because we want him taking, a bulk of the shots, it helps my offense flow, because Scottie Pippen can go away from Mike to someone else and get someone else involved. Mike is going to draw a lot of attention, just like Steph Curry. If Draymond has the ball and Steph Curry is running off a screen, every eye is going to be on him except for probably the guy that's guarding Draymond up top. But the other 4 eyes, they're paying attention to Steph Curry, because if he comes off this screen open, it's a very good chance he's going to hit that 3. So now the guy that's chasing him on the screen, and then the guy who's guarding the screener, has to cheat a little bit to make sure he don't get that pass clean with a clean look. So that's 2 guys at least paying attention to him, right? And that gives other opportunities for the guy that's setting the screen to slip, or that gives Clay on the other end who can get open, because his guy cheated a little bit, because he know he gotta try to stop this guy, this layup, from this guy slipping the screen. It's just so many different angles that happens when your best player is running around that screen or running off a screen, right? Reggie Miller, same thing, doing running off that screen. Michael Jordan and Kobe did it. They didn't run to catch and shoot threes, but they ran around to get curl actions to hit mid-range jump shots, right? But it opens up a lot, and Draymond Green or Tony Kukoc or Scottie Pippen are the ones who's making the decision with the ball. So it can be Michael Jordan, but if you pay too much attention to him, I might have Kerr over in the side, or I might have Clay over in the side. Right? It opens up a whole new thing. But the way the Mavs use Luka is he's got the ball most of the time. And if he don't have the ball, he's not running off no screen like Steph Curry, Reggie Miller, or Michael Jordan, or Kobe Bryant, or Kyrie Irving for that matter. He's just standing over in the corner. And now it's Kyrie Irving's turn to go one-on-one and do what he does. But it's not really involving Luka because he's just standing there. It's Jalen Bronson's turn to go one-on-one. It's Tim Hardaway's turn to go one-on-one. Horrible offense, right? But if he get involved and actually do some catching and shooting, some posting, do all that stuff, let somebody else run the point, then we might see the Mavs unlock their highest potential. So I say all that to say this. Luka Doncic is a great player. He checks the boxes on offense, especially with the ball. But off the ball, I don't know if he check all those boxes. Kyrie Irving does. He checks all the boxes on offense from the three, from the free throw line, inside the paint with layups, dribble drive, pull-ups, post, fast break, mid-range, off the ball, coming off screens, screen and roll, being a ball handler. Every way possible on offense, Kyrie checks the block. Luka doesn't. Off the ball, there's a lot to be desired, and his free throws he still haven't mastered. Right? So I think Kyrie is a more complete player on offense than Luka. And then you go to the defensive end, and the reputation of both of the guys on defense is bad. But I don't think they're both legit criticisms. I think Kyrie Irving actually plays good defense. I think Kyrie Irving's reputation, along with Steph Curry's reputation as a defender, has really come from like Steph Curry. He got exposed a lot in the series when he was going head to head with LeBron, because Ty Lue's strategy was for screen and roll with Kyrie or LeBron, and we want whoever Steph is guarding to set the screen so we can get a switch with Steph Curry. Because on the floor, before KD got there, you had Harrison Barnes, good defender, great defender. You had Iguodala, great defender. You had Draymond Green, great defender. You had Klay Thompson, great defender. You would have those guys on the floor with Steph Curry, right? So if the Cavs offense was predicated on high screen roll, dribble, drive, action, drive, and kick, right? Who do you want to attack? Iguodala or Draymond or Klay? It's not as easy attacking those guys. Sure, LeBron and Kyrie are great players who can get the best of that matchup, but they would get more advantage by Steph Curry having to defend. Plus, if he has to defend and he's their best player and he's their offense, what happens if he gets in foul trouble? The game is gonna be in danger. So it was a double-edged sword for Golden State. So Steph Curry, a lot of times would try to get hit. They would try to hide Steph Curry from having to guard Kyrie or LeBron on those screens, and they would think of ways to get Steph Curry out of that screen and roll action, so we can get a better defender on him. But that doesn't mean Steph Curry was a bad defender. That just means he had 4 defenders on that team that was better and bigger, right? And then he was the main scoring option, and the whole offense flowed through him. So you can't lose him to foul trouble. So all of those things, the optics of it made it look bad, and he was having to defend a lot on the ball and defending 2 of the best players on the floor, in Kyrie Irving and LeBron James. So they're having 3 straight playoff, 3 straight finals appearances with the Cavs. So that's where his reputation got bad with defending. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is so much of an offensive juggernaut. It was the same thing. They didn't want to get him in foul trouble, and the other teams kind of did. And he played on teams who had great defenders. LeBron is not a slouch for you to just go at. You would rather, if you're trying to get to the paint, you would rather go at someone else other than LeBron. They had Richard Jefferson on the team, great defender. J.R. Smith, he wasn't a slouch. You know, he was okay. But definitely the weakest link on that Cavs team probably was Kyrie. Right. So he got picked on by the other team's best player, trying to get him in screen and roll actions, and that kind of messed the conversation up around them. But when you actually look at it and follow them, Curry and Kyrie both defend well. But that's not the case for Luka. Luka doesn't defend well at all. He doesn't even defend. Right. So he's a liability there. So when you look at the fact that Kyrie is more complete offensively, and then he's actually a more capable defender, and Luka don't defend at all, I would have to say that the more complete player is Kyrie Irving. And that's why Gilbert Arenas and everybody that was on his panel when Kenyon Martin said, is Luka even the best player on his team? They paused. Why isn't it just a complete yes? Why isn't it just an easy answer? It's not an easy answer, because the answer that they're saying in their head, the obvious answer is no. Kyrie is better. But they know that once they say that, the backlash they're going to get from the entire NBA media is going to be it's going to be a lot, right? No one's going to agree with that, because everyone's going to look at, well, he averaged 32, 8, and 8 last year. And case will be closed for them with that 32, 8, and 8. Case closed, right? That's how they look at it. 32, 8, and 8. If you get that, case closed. We don't care about nothing else. 32, 8, and 8, case closed. And you just can't look at it like that when you're evaluating a player, right? You know, you have to tell me what they do well and what they can't do. And when you're trying to compare them with another player, you evaluate them, and if one comes out on top, then the one comes out on top. Who cares about the numbers? Because we know those numbers, like I alluded to at the beginning of this, you looking at basketball through the lens of the NBA, and you can't look at basketball that way. You can't. I mean, you just can't. I don't even think Luka averaged 32 and 8 and 8 in his European league. You know, so the fact that the NBA has a game style and the Mavs play a style that actually allows that, where you take your best player and say, hey, we're just going to give you the ball and we're going to set screens for you, and either you're going to take the shot or you're going to make the pass that leads to the shot, right? And if you're as good as Luka, how do you not average 30 and 8 assists? Like if I'm designing the offense for you to either get the point or you to either get the assist, of course you're going to average 30 and 8. But if I take Luka off the ball and make him do the other nuances around basketball, hey, you got to come off screens, you got to run, you got to keep your legs moving like Steph, right? You got to get in this mid post, this low post. You got to set some screens. You those are all the things that Coach K would require his players to do at Duke. Like, you just can't come in here and do one thing. You definitely got to defend, and you definitely going to be involved in setting screens, playing off the ball, catching and shooting, dribbling. Like, you got to do all of those things when you're playing for someone who's going to require you to be a total package. And Luka, I think, can be a total package, but we haven't seen it yet, because they're handicapping him and the Mavs. They're not handicapping his numbers. They're handicapping the Mavs. And as long as the Mavs are handicapped, then Luka is, right? It's his legacy that's at stake if they don't win something soon. They got to start winning, because right now the walls are caving in. You got rid of Kimball. You got rid of Dennis Smith Jr. You got rid of Jalen Brunson. You got rid of JaVale McGee. You got rid of Christian Woods. You got rid of Porzingis. Like, you getting rid of all these guys that we're finding out, oh man, it's not a good fit for Luka. Why are they not good fits? And what does that say about your game if you have to have the perfect fit? Because when your game is actually complete, people don't have to fit around you. Of course, they're going to build a team around your strengths and weakness, but it's more often if you fitting into a system versus me creating a system around you for you to succeed. Like when your game is complete, you can play for a coach that wants you off the ball, or play for a coach that wants you with the ball, or you can do it interchangeably during the game based on case by case scenario. You get what I'm saying? Like that's when you know your game is complete. I think Wembanyama's game is complete if you watch him play off the ball, with the ball, in the post, in the perimeter. Like Greg Popovich is going to get him to play more of a complete game than what Jason Kidd and Carlisle and I don't even think it's Kidd and Carlisle, because I know Carlisle runs a sophisticated offense. I really think it's actually the owner. The owner wants Luka to be successful, because the more successful Luka is, the more successful he is going to be as far as finances, because breaking into that European market is huge for the NBA as a whole. And as long as you have that gold piece of a European player that's as good as Luka, or as good as Jokic, or as good as Giannis, it's going to benefit you, because the NBA is trying to break into that European market. So they're going to have to market the players that's going to be more of a conduit for that European market. So that means, hey, look, that means we're going to get favor from the NBA. So let me milk this for everything I can milk it for. You know, Luka, I want you to get out a number. So they kind of, but at the same time, they're trying to win, right? Which is not always a good thing to do. I'm trying to win, but I'm also trying to make sure my player gets marketed with maximum exposure, and I'm trying to cater my offense around him to make sure that he is the face of this team, and hopefully the face of the league eventually. That's the goal for the Mavs. But yeah, Kenyon Martin's right. Gilbert Arenas is right. Everybody that's on the panel is right. Kyrie is better than Luka. Kyrie is a more complete player than Luka. Luka should be better because he's 6'8". Like size matters in basketball. You know, it gives you a huge advantage. You know, so I should be able to score in more ways, and I should be able to get easier buckets than Kyrie Irving. But Kyrie is so daggone skilled. He's just a different dude, man. He's really just a 6'1" Kobe Bryant. He's so daggone good. I mean, you know, so I don't know, man. I just feel like the Mavs got to wake up. I feel like the NBA fans got to wake up as well, man. Like at some point we got to stop valuing the stats and the numbers, because you know you can force those stats by playing a certain style of offense. You can force those stats if you have a player that good. If you want to average close to a triple double, you can get that. We've seen Westbrook do it. We've seen Harden do it. All right, now we're seeing Luka do it. So I'm not impressed by it. I'm not fooled by it. And yes, Kyrie Irving is better than Luka Doncic. The last thing I wanted to mention about that whole thing is when we look at the numbers. Now, you know, of course, Trae Young and Luka both got traded for each other on draft day, and you know their names are going to always be synonymous. But when you look at the success in the numbers, like Luka has been to a conference finals, so has Trae Young. They both performed well in the playoffs. They both put up big points and assist numbers. Luka's 6'8" and Trae Young's 5'11", so the rebounds is going to be a big disparity. So Luka's getting 9 rebounds and Trae's getting 4, right? So Luka's getting 4 more rebounds, but the points, 27, 25, assists, 8, 9, right? Steals, both 1, right? So they're neck and neck at what they do offensively. The only gap is really the defense. I mean, not the defense, but the rebounding. That's the only gap. But yet, we keep hearing Luka in the MVP discussion. We keep hearing him in this top 4 range, face of the NBA, face of the league, and all this stuff. But no love showed to Trae Young, right? And I think that's very interesting. And I won't even go no more further than that. I just wanted to point that out. I think that is wildly interesting. The next thing I want to get into is Stephen A. Smith, man, has entered the chat, right? Stephen A. Smith. I found a clip of him, and I think I missed it. I think this might have been during the playoffs, right when the Lakers was about to get swept, and he weighed in on the GOAT debate. He said a couple of things, man. So I'm gonna get my thoughts on it. I'm gonna let Stephen A. Get his words out, and then I'm gonna come back with my commentary.
The obvious, you do know that MJ has 6 titles, right? And LeBron has 4. You do know that, right? You do know that MJ was undefeated in all 6 NBA Finals appearances. Do you know that? You do know that Michael Jordan never allowed an NBA Finals series to get to a 7th game. Did you know that? I'm sure you did. Did you know he's a 10-time champion? And LeBron has won a scoring title 1 time? Did you know he's a 9-time first-team all-defensive player? LeBron James did that 5 times. Did you know that Michael Jordan is the former Defensive Player of the Year in 1988? LeBron James has never won a Defensive Player of the Year. We're talking about what you do on both sides of the court, and we're talking about Michael Jordan, in my mind, being the greatest, but not throwing any shade on LeBron James because he's the worthy number 2. But he's about to get swept. By the way, Michael Jordan, he got swept twice, just like LeBron did. But it was in best of 5 series in 86 and 87 to Larry Bird, McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, and those boys. In a best of 5 series. Michael Jordan has never gotten swept in a best of 7 series in his career. By the way, and I don't want to take any credit away from my brother, Chris Broussard, who works for Fox Sports. He and I are tight. We go back decades. I love him like a brother. I don't want to take any credit away from him. I was listening to him the other day talk about the Jordan-LeBron comparisons. And Chris Broussard made a point that obviously I know, but because of the bevy of things that are on my mind, I might have forgotten to bring up at that time. Do you understand that during the LeBron James era, there were debates as to whether or not he was the best in the world because Kobe was still playing at one time. Tim Duncan was still playing for a large chunk of that time. And ultimately, Steph Curry has been playing a large chunk of that time. Do you know that when Michael Jordan was playing, there was never a debate ever as to who was the best in the world? Did you know that? There was never a debate. Even before Michael Jordan won the title in 91, from 88 on, it was clear that Michael Jordan, even with Larry Bird or Magic Johnson winning championships, it was clear that Michael Jordan was the best player in the world. Larry Bird called him God in gym shorts. Magic and them wanted to get at him when he showed up in Barcelona for the Dream Team. And Michael Jordan said, there's a new sheriff in town. They didn't give him the mantle, he took it.
So I do agree. I do agree with Stephen A. Smith that Michael Jordan is the greatest player. Well, I speak for myself. He's the greatest player I've ever seen. Right. And I think that's a good place to put a period. It's just, in my opinion, he's the greatest player I've ever seen. And my criteria is completeness. If we're gonna judge, if we're gonna critique, if we're gonna critique anything, we're gonna be trying to decide on how close to complete is or how close to perfect is it. Right. So I don't understand how we even use any other metrics to do that. So Stephen A. mentioned a bunch of things, but I don't think those things are really necessary to even point out. Like it's not necessary to point out. And if everybody started looking at it from my perspective and saying, how complete is this player, right? And start there first. That's your foundation. LeBron James would never be in the debate if we did it that way, right? So just as I was describing, the difference between Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, it's the same thing. Who is the complete player? Who's close to the complete? And when you start looking at that, you're critiquing what a player can do and what a player can't do. And then when you start saying, well, LeBron really can't shoot free throws that well. LeBron's shot mechanics is very unorthodox and off. It's to a point now where it's a good shot, but for most of his career it was below average. All right, from all levels, free throw, 3-point, mid range, it don't matter, right? But now it's a little bit better, right? So I won't judge him on it right now, but as far as judging him and Michael Jordan or him and Kobe, he falls short of both of those players. Michael Jordan and Kobe's game was too complete to be overshadowed by LeBron James. Now, where someone who might support LeBron James would take the conversation to is the resume, the narrative, or the storyline. And when you do that, then yes, if we having this conversation or this debate just on paper, like for example, if you were hiring someone and you don't get a chance to see them work, like you hiring them for a particular job and you ain't never seen them do it, but you have their resume and you have two resumes and you picking the playoff resume, that's where LeBron might look better than Kobe, but he still doesn't pass Michael Jordan. So it's not even a debate. Michael Jordan beats him when you just do an eye test and watch them play and see how close to complete Michael is versus how close to complete LeBron is. And then when you look at the resume, Mike still beats it. So Mike is out of the equation as far as debating. Mike is in a league of his own. But it's flip-flop for Kobe and LeBron. Kobe on one end is a more complete player and a better player on both ends of the floor. And LeBron has a better paper resume. So that's more debatable than LeBron and Mike, right? But neither Kobe or LeBron is really debatable for Mike at all. But we can debate Kobe and LeBron. That's why I draw the line after Mike, and we can start a debate. But Kobe's better than LeBron. He just is. And even with that debate, I'm going to lean heavier to the more complete player, especially if he's accomplished what the ultimate goal is, which is to actually win it. And Kobe has still accomplished that more than LeBron, 5-4, right? So, what else you want to debate, right? Because if the goal was to accumulate more all-time stats, then you can lean toward LeBron. If the goal was to do more things on the floor on the offensive end, if the goal was to get more points and assists and rebound, those three stats right there for some reason trip everyone up in how they judge a player: points, rebounds, and assists. Anything close to a triple-double just trips everyone up. All logic goes out of the window once they see uptick in points, rebounds, and assists. It's just over. Westbrook has won MVPs that way. Harden has won MVPs that way. LeBron has won MVPs that way. They're trying to give Luka the MVP that way. Jokic have won MVPs that way. Points, rebounds, and assists just all logic goes out of the window. We don't even care about defense. We don't even halfway care about wins. If you're able to get points, rebounds, and assists close to a triple-double, oh man, you're the best thing since sliced bread. And that's how we think now. We don't even view basketball the same way that we used to view it. We view it just through the lens of those three stats: points, rebounds, and assists. And that's how we're viewing it. I don't understand it. So for everything that Stephen A. Smith said, yeah, I mean, I agree with all that stuff, but those things aren't necessary. But I don't agree with the fact that that LeBron James is number 2. I just don't. I just don't believe he's a better player than Kobe, so he's not going to be over Kobe. And I definitely don't believe that his resume is better than Kareem's. Kareem's resume rivals Mike's. So for that reason, 1, 2, and 3 is Mike, Kobe, Kareem. Not really in that order. It can be Kareem 2 and Kobe 3, right? So Mike, Kareem, Kobe at 1, 2, and 3. And then we got to start considering LeBron, Bird, Magic, Wilt, Oscar, Duncan. We got to start considering those guys, right, to shape up the rest of the top 10. But 1, 2, and 3 is a lock, in my opinion. Stephen A. Smith, I understand he has a show, and this topic's got to come up every now and then. They got to argue it, but I think this they go a whole unnecessary route with reducing this conversation to a paper resume, which is fine because Mike wins on that as well. But just to reduce it to a paper resume does an injustice to everyone else. Nobody really stacks up to Mike's greatness in career. Nobody. Right? So but to just reduce it to paper resume, that takes out Kareem, that takes out, well, I don't take out Kareem, but it takes out people like Kobe, who are probably some of the best talent we've ever seen in this league. He's definitely if he's the closest thing we've seen to Jordan, and we think Jordan is the greatest player, how can the closest thing to the greatest player not be anywhere near where he's at? How do you put him all the way? Like, some people got him like number 11, number 10, number 12, behind so many guys. I just can't understand it. And the only thing that they can say, the reason why, has nothing to do with actual what he can do on the floor. They say Kobe Bryant can't be considered for 2 reasons. Efficiency. They say his shot percentage is low. And they say he played with Shaq. Now, how do you evaluate that? How do you how do you go, like, let's say if you're scouting a high school player and you're trying to get him to your program, your college program, right? Let's say you're the head coach, you send your scout out, and your scout come back and you be like, all right, man, you went to 10 different schools. I need a point guard. You went to 10. Well, no, say let's keep it. You need a shooting guard. I sent my scout to 10 different schools to get a shoot guard, and he comes back, and I look at his scout report, and he says, I'm trying to figure out who go fit my program and who's the best player out there, and you start describing to me who their teammates were. Well, we can't consider this guy because his teammate was Shaq, or his teammate was this guy. How does that help me? Like, how? Like, I haven't seen this kid play. You've seen him play. If you watch him play, tell me what he can do, what he can't do. Well, he played with Shaq, so he's not the best. Don't make sense. Hey, but this is this other guy who averaged a triple-double. Well, look, you got to tell me what their strengths and weaknesses are. That's not a scouting report. A scouting report is not a triple-double, or I played with Shaq, or my shot percentage is 45%. Right? You can't tell me that. You have to actually evaluate a player. You have to actually watch them play. Tell me their strengths and weaknesses, what they can do, what they can't do, all of those things. You have to tell. That's how you scout a person. And when you scout all the players in the league that has ever played, you're not going to find a player that scouts out better than Mike. You probably won't find many players that scout out better than Kobe's either. But if you're looking for a 50% field goal percentage, then yeah, go with LeBron. But if you're looking for the better player, go with Kobe. Last thing I wanted to discuss and touch on was Nikola Jokic. So, and this will be quick. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that thumbs up on your way in. But Nikola Jokic, right? So he won 2 MVPs in a row. Then he probably finished second in votings for his 3rd MVP. So he could have won 3 MVPs in a row. There was a lot of drama surrounding the MVP race last year. Kendrick Perkins mentioned that Jokic was stat padding. He also mentioned some other things, that turned into a huge blow out with some NBA analysts like JJ Redick and all that stuff. And a lot of Jokic fans took issue with almost everything. You know, they really didn't like the fact that Jokic didn't get his third MVP. They attacked Joel Embiid. They definitely attacked Kendrick Perkins, and anybody who agreed that Joel Embiid should be the MVP pretty much got attacked, right? And they pretty much said that he stole the MVP, and the fact that Jokic won the finals and performed well in the whole playoffs, in their mind, proves that he should have been the MVP, right? So that's the thought process around Jokic and his followers and fans and supporters, right? So with this season coming up, right, and it seemed like the new thing around Jokic is to say he's been disrespected. You know, that's like the new, you know, like LeBron fans had this certain narrative that they was going with, like why everybody hating on LeBron, and you know, he's a good father, and why would you hate on him? And all people are doing are critiquing him. Like, you know, if I critique him and it's something about this game that I actually critique that can be approved upon, they don't make me a hater, right? But you know, that's how LeBron fans went with it. Well, Jokic fans are turning into LeBron fans, but it's a different dynamic with it because he's from Serbia, so he's got a lot of support from his home, his you know, his place, you know, his place of record, his home of record, and you know, and European people in general support Jokic for one, you know, because hey, look, man, that's the homie. Why wouldn't you support him? And two, he's a great player, right? So I get it. I support Jokic, but I also like discussing basketball, and I like, you know, discussing it below the surface. So I critique a player, or I could critique a certain thing or a team and say what my opinion is. And sometimes that opinion is not popular, right? So anyway, I say all that to say this. Nikola Jokic, the season is starting, right? And Jokic fans took issue to the disrespect they think that he's getting. He's won the finals. So now they feel like the support and love and respect should come pouring in. And when it didn't, they raised the red flag. ESPN put out their top 100. I think they put Jokic at number one. Not Jokic, they put Giannis at number one and Jokic at number two. His fans said that was horrible. Why? How is he not number one when he just beat Durant? He swept LeBron. He averaged X, Y, and Z in the finals, and yada yada yada, and triple double this, and you know, all of this. What? How is he not the best player in the world? Like they take offense that he's not number one on ESPN's list. They take offense that he's not the face of the league, and he's not, his image isn't blasted all over commercials and stuff like that. And if you look at the top left of the screen, you see TNT's advertisement for opening night. And I think Jokic is playing Phoenix opening night. I think the Kings might be playing the Warriors. You know, I think LeBron might be playing. Can't remember who the Lakers are playing. But it's some good games opening night. And you see the faces that are on there. They got Tatum, LeBron, Curry, and KD. No Jokic. They don't have Jokic there, right? And his fans was upset, you know. And how do I know this? Because I'm looking at social media, Facebook, YouTube, and X, formerly known as Twitter, and they're going off. They're just tweeting, this is disrespectful. You know, where's Jokic at? Tatum isn't even playing opening night, which he's not, I don't think, right? So it is kind of odd that they got Tatum on there and not Jokic. But they're mad. Like, everything they're taking is disrespect. But you can't have it both ways, right? You can't really have it both ways, because last I checked, the storyline following Jokic is he don't want that press. Here's a clip from, I don't know where this guy's from, but he has a YouTube page. It's called NBA News, I think. Here's him talking about it.
Why Nikola Jokic is misunderstood and disrespected in the United States. One of the most unique things about the two-time MVP and five-time All-Star is the fact that he takes no effort in order to promote himself, maybe even to his own detriment. The Denver Nuggets and all of the media are trying their best to push Jokic out to the mainstream, but he just doesn't care. For example, journalist and podcaster Kevin O'Connor in his Reddit AMA revealed that he has pitched many great story ideas about Jokic to Nuggets PR over the years. As expected, Jokic said no to all of them since he wants no extra attention off the court. And of course, the best way to get attention these days is social media. Just take a look at Cristiano Ronaldo, who is the most popular person on Instagram with 564 million followers.
What a number. Now I can say,
Many other athletes follow his example and promote themselves and their brands, but not Jokic. In fact, he doesn't even have Instagram. Once, Luka Doncic tried to convince the Joker, but couldn't get it done.
He's just a different guy. He loves his horses. I tried to convince him to make Instagram, but he said, no chance, no chance.
And it's not like Jokic has no personality. I agree with Cole here, who said, I feel like Jokic would be funny AF on Twitter, as Nikola definitely has a lot of charisma.
So at the end, he really did, he said Jokic is a likable guy. He's likable. If you seen him when he did his post game interviews with TNT, he was joking on Shaq and Charles Barkley. The dude is funny, man. I bet as a teammate in the locker room, I bet he's fun to be around. I like Jokic, right? He's funny. If he wanted to be a guy who gets a lot of attention in the media, he could be. He definitely has the like you said, the charisma to do it, the personality to do it. But that's not the character he's trying to portray, right? He's living and eating off that character of I don't care, I just want to get to my horses. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like everyone puts on a persona, right? And it's not too far off how they really feel, but it is a little bit of an act. You get what I'm saying? Like, what people show, no matter if you're famous or not, what people show you out in public is not 100% their true self. Some of it has to be an act. It has to be, right? I was in the military and I was one certain way, but it wasn't a stretch for me to be that way because that's part of my personality. But my most comfortable self wasn't the person that I was showing everybody while I was in the military. That was the person I wanted you to see. So everyone has that image that they want to portray. So that's what he want to portray. He wants to be the guy that, hey, man, I can care less about this stuff, but I'm still gonna come out here and murder y'all. But he's in the gym practicing just as much as Kevin Durant and anybody else. Don't think that Jokic is just showing up to the games, eating burgers and drinking beer, and then just hop on the court and just ball out and then go back home and play with his horses. No, he's so good. He's in the gym putting in work. He's putting work in just like everybody. So he cares just as much as everybody, but his persona is that he doesn't. And that's what he wants. So when the NBA gives him what he wants, okay, we'll let you fly under the radar. We're not going to push you all out there, get you all exposed and do all that stuff. You're not desiring it. So we're not going to do it. So it's a double-edged sword for his fans because they want to use that persona that he's putting out, that he's not flamboyant like a LeBron and he's not all over the social media and all this stuff. He's not like one of those guys. Look, our guy is just strictly business. We like that. So we'll brag about that part, but then we'll also on the other end complain when the NBA actually gives him what he wants and don't recognize him as much as they recognize other players. You get what I'm saying? So which one is it that you want? Do you want to brag about the I'm all business on one end, or do you want to complain about the fact that the NBA isn't including him in all of these promos? That's my question to the Jokic fans. Which one? What do you want? Like, what do you want? They're respecting his wishes. I don't want to be all out there. And the guy mentioned Kevin O'Connor. I think he's one of is he on the Ringer? He might be one of the writers for the Ringers, right? And he tweeted about it. And like he said, he's been trying to work with the Nuggets PR team in the NBA for the last couple of years trying to get stories out on Jokic, but Jokic keep denying it. So it's a lot of people that want Jokic name to be in the limelight, in the big lights and all that stuff, but that's not his desire. So I thought that was real interesting, man. It's something to pay attention to the rest of the way for the season. I think as the MVP discussion heats up again, I think you'll hear more. I told you so. We should have gave it to Jokic last year. Embiid didn't deserve it. You hear that crowd a little bit because they already been saying it all summer. So we had to get a little louder once the season starts. And then you also hear more of the Jokic is not getting enough respect echoing around social media as well. So look out for that, man. I just wanted to mention it here, just to document it, and then I'll monitor it from here, and then maybe we'll have another discussion about it. Who knows? But that's the show. That's all the topics for the day. I appreciate everybody who stuck around for the entire show. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already done it, and hit that subscribe button as well. Leave a comments. Let me know what you think about all our topics that we discussed, man. Let me know about what you think about this Jokic situation as well. Should the NBA be pushing him out more? Does he deserve it? Do you think he's been disrespected? Let me know about those things, and then I'll catch y'all on the next